When we look back 20 years, well, maybe 30 years, 2021 is going to be a year to remember. And I'm not talking about the pandemic. Absolutely not. 2021 is going to be the year for cannabis, marijuana. Cannabis. That's what 2021 is going to be remembered for. Marijuana stocks. We're not going to talk about real estate today. We just don't talk about real estate. We talk about personal finance, stocks, bonds, entrepreneurship. So if you think this is about real estate, turn it off, but you should keep it on. I don't charge. I give pearls. Not all the pearls work out, but it's free. So we're going to talk about cannabis and how maybe you can make a little bit of money. I got into it a year and a half ago. I used to work for a big tobacco company, and I heard the chatter, and there were Q&A sessions with the higher ups, and I knew it was a segment they can't avoid. They couldn't avoid, and I could tell by the body language. I said, they're going to get into it 100%. It's all a matter of the government. So right now, you have the government passing legislation. You have big tobacco getting into it. You have big pharma getting into it. So what's going on? Let's take government. Joe Biden administration. Since Joe Biden has become president of the United States, stocks in the tobacco segment have surged. Bulls have become even more bullish, and that his administration will lessen the harsh cannabis laws in the United States of America. Pot stocks have surged since Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, and two other legislatures have introduced legislation. Chuck Schumer pledges to decriminalize marijuana. So you have the government segment, and it has bipartisan support. They're all behind it. They're pushing the legislation through. Chuck Schumer, Ron Wyden of Oregon, Cory Booker of New Jersey said in a joint statement, the legislation is coming, it's already there. So the war on drugs is a top priority. They feel it unfairly targets the poor community, people of color. So they want to legalize marijuana and enact measures to uplift people rather than keep them down. So the war on drugs is at the forefront. So that means you got the government behind it. That means the stocks, the funding is going to surge. It's going to go through the roof. So what do you have to do? I think you have to look at, to get a better understanding of this, because you're not going to listen to McClone, but just look at the big picture of this. And we got some big picture numbers here. When you look at this from 30,000 feet, and the light bulb's going to go off. Because that's what it did for me when I researched it a while back. I don't invest in anything unless you do research, right? So you have four components to the cannabis industry. You have recreational marijuana. Recreational marijuana currently is about a $3.2 billion a year market. By 2025, they estimate it to go to $12.5 billion. So that's growth of 18.4% CAGR. Number two, medical marijuana. 2017, $5.1 billion. By 2025, $12.5 billion. That's a growth of 11.8% CAGR. And CBD oil. We all know what that is. Everyone's selling it. It's in gyms. It's in shops. I've never tried it. I've heard mixed reviews on it. People who love it, praise it. But currently it's about 205 million. By 2021, right now, 2.2 billion. That's a growth of 70%. And number four is hemp. 2017, $820 million. By 2022, almost $2 billion. That's a growth of 14.4%. So you just look at those numbers, where it's going, and it's exploding. Then you throw in what big tobacco is doing, what big pharma is doing, and what the government is doing. It's a no-brainer, okay? So worldwide, legal marijuana market to grow from its current value of $9.2 billion to an incredible $57 billion by 2027. $57 billion by 2027 worldwide. The U.S. cannabis industry is expected to deliver as many as 340,000 jobs. That's a nearly $80 billion a year economic impact. So, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. You take away some pearls, in the last 2 months alone, North America has seen incredible development in the marijuana sector and legalization, development that was unthinkable over 10 years ago. On October 17th, Canada legalized recreational marijuana. That's a $7 billion a year market. They legalized it nationwide. On Tuesday, November 6th, Michigan became the 10th state in America to legalize recreational marijuana. We're going back now. That's one of the very first Midwestern states. Additionally, Missouri and Utah both legalized medical marijuana use. So if you keep tracking this, that's 33 of 50 states have decriminalized marijuana, and then the other states have some type of mixed use, mixed decriminalization, based on the ounces if you're caught with marijuana up to 28 grams that you can use. So here's another kicker. As I mentioned earlier, on December 7th, one of the largest tobacco companies worldwide announced a 45% stake in Canadian marijuana producer Coronis Group. Even tobacco companies are seeing the writing on the walls. They're getting into it. They're all about profit, right? They're getting into it. They see something. They're forward thinking. They're going for it. So the bottom line is, right now, what Congress and Joe Biden administration is doing, even back in 2019, they talked about if the Democrats take over, Congress announces an intention to make cannabis legalization a top priority. One representative vision was this, and it has bipartisan support. Marijuana will be legal at the federal level, and states allowed to responsibly regulate its use. So everything, all engines are firing. They're behind it. It's just $80 billion U.S. cannabis industry. You can't explain it. I mean, it's just, you can't avoid it. You got to get into it. And when we talk about big pharma, Jazz Pharmaceuticals merged with GW Pharmaceuticals, an epilepsy drug that has, it's delivered by cannabis. So they got cannabis in their drug. I invested in GW Jazz Pharmaceuticals 6+ months ago. So they're getting into the game. And if you don't believe me now, let's talk Shopify. I invested in Shopify 9 months ago. It's a higher end stock. I like to go lower end, but I was told to invest in it. Has worked out. But you look at Shopify, they've been on the head of the curve with cannabis. Canada's marijuana market is estimated to be at $7 billion, which means Shopify has already potential to start marketing a tiny profit through recreational cannabis sales, in addition to the 35 billion interactions the platform has already handled last year. It's already did 35 billion on their platform. But what about the 50 billion legal cannabis industry they expect are projecting the US up to 80? So although it may take time for the feds to legalize it across the US, there are many reasons to believe that it's not far off. So Shopify is putting their platform to use for it. They're getting ahead of the curve, and they've made an investment. Every state that legalized recreational marijuana is another potential market for Shopify. But by the time America gets around to legalization at the federal level, Shopify will presumably have several years of experience as the framework for the safe and sensible retailing of recreational cannabis. So the stock's quite high right now, but if you haven't invested in Shopify, you might want to look into it. Buy 10 shares. I think they're just poised for growth on what they're doing. I'll leave some other stocks some tips that I recommend for some penny stocks and an ETF that you should invest in. No charge. I belong to some investor groups, some paid services. I'm always looking to learn from other ways, as well as some investment bankers that give me information, and I just follow the trends. But I think this is an interesting segment. And when you look at it from the holistic perspective of the industry, and you take the government, like I said, I can't emphasize this enough, what tobacco companies are doing, and what pharmaceutical companies are doing, they see this as a viable segment for growth. So I think 2021, assuming the legislation all goes through, and it looks like it has bipartisan support, this is going to be a segment that you should put some money into. Put $1,000 into it, and just buy some stock and watch it, and start watching it, because it's a no-brainer to me. Cannabis industry 2021. It's horrible what's going on with the pandemic, but we have to look for positives. We have to be creative in ways to make money. I just don't do one thing. I do many things, and and if you get busy in other area, you bring in people to help you out with your real estate, with your stocks, with your business so you can continue to do many things, because you have to diversify. You can't think you know everything in one segment, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's your business, whether it's affiliate programs. I got an affiliate. I'm making like $200 a month, but it's something. And I'm always looking for ways to do it. And you constantly learn, spend every day learning about something new and put it on your to-do list. And that's just going to expand your knowledge. There's no one way to do it. You got to do it many ways. And the way my mind works, I have to do many things. I don't believe in just being great at one thing. I think you can be great at many things, and then you delegate and bring the right people in to help you when it starts exploding. So, cannabis sector, look into it. Take care.